Welcome to the ET Stand, the Cronulla Sharks fans podcast. You idiots, I'm just laughing at these clowns just trying to make faces at me in the background. On this episode of the ET Stand podcast, we are going to work out, stop it you idiots. We're going to try and work out what a dynasty is and if the Cronulla Sharks can ever build one of their own. We're just not content with one premier. These idiots in the background, I'm going to stop them from pulling faces at me. Let's just bring them in. That is Boldo's tears. Chris Kelly, who would you move?
Where do we start? I'm glad Boldo didn't grow up in Egypt times because that's a terrible looking pyramid. It would have fallen over and collapsed by now. And given that he just Googled the squad and put Matt Ikevalu in the bottom and he hasn't been there since half of last year, a pyramid would have fallen.
He's still on the page.
The pyramid would have fallen over. You would have been missing a foundation piece and it's fallen over.
Oh, Maloney is still intercept. Away goes James Maloney. They're kicking him home, the Sharks fans. Maloney is there. Healy. It's Healy has scored on his departure day. Mitch Healy gets a try. The crowd have gone absolutely bereft.
In amongst all of that, Lat's had an awesome story about how awesome this Finau guy was, and then Boldo concludes it with like, yeah, Finucane, how good is he? And everyone's like,
I don't even know who Finau is. I just assumed that Finau was the same guy as Finucane. Is that a different person? I didn't know that. Who the hell's Finau?
Wow. This is how flawed the tears are. He doesn't even know half the team.
Boldo.
This is where the tears bit comes into it.
I'm listening to the car going, did my stream just like skip 30 seconds or something? Like, no, it was just Boldo just playing along. But anyway.
Peachy, great ball to Campbell. He's away. Campbell to the 30-metre line. Now, Colin Best heading for the corner. Gets it back on the inside. Graham, they're over. Nick Graham has scored. 4 minutes into the game.
And it's away. Here they are. Pryor. Can he get it there? Yes, he can. Matt Pryor, an unlikely first try scorer for the Sharks.
Interesting enough that the North Bears are getting that desperate. They're talking about having a Pacific Bears team so they can sort of engulf those Pacific nations and sort of get that ball rolling where they think they can sort of, take on the Cook Islands and the Samoans and the Tongas and sort of make it their team. So PNG's to go for me.
I'm pretty convinced after that. All right, Franco, what do you got?
Mate. Can I rebuttal that, or am I giving a different answer?
Go for it. Enough arguments on this podcast. Come on,
you're going to throw out cans, and they're going to play out of cans.
Ever. That is the dumbest idea ever.
Townsend now calling the shots with Johnson off. They will go. Gallen, field goal. Paul Gallen field goal. That is amazing. That is ridiculous. Away. It's back to Smith. Smith gets it away to Cronk. Cronk's got Korobetti with it. Have they got a chance here? Korobetti's put down. The siren sounds. Cronulla have won it. Cronulla have won it. 14-12. You can turn the light out now.
For over 50 years, people have come to see the Sharks play. Talent, skill, speed, intelligence. elite level athleticism. That's not these guys. Biased, one-eyed, opinionated, more often wrong than right. They make up for their complete lack of talent with pure dribble, gibberish, and enthusiasm. This is the ET Stand Podcast.
Are you still angry? Am I still angry? Why? Why do we keep doing it to ourselves? We come back every time, every week. We're live on YouTube and onto Facebook. This is the ET Stand, the Cronulla Sharks fan podcast, where we let out talking to the football. What an episode we have for you this evening. If you are new to the channel, please do hit the subscribe button and the like button. And for Sharks fans, bit of a warning for you. If you hit the subscribe button, the Sharks are going to win this weekend. So just hit that subscribe button. Just go do it. Come on, just down there. Just go do it for us. For those on Spotify, that's I just guarantee it. All you have to do is that.
Start a streak.
Hello to everyone listening to us on Spotify as well. It's a great way to engage with everyone. I've been listening to the podcast myself when I miss it on Spotify. That's a lot of fun. On this episode, we are going to take you through all of the latest happenings in the world of the Cronulla Sharks through the lens of what is garnering the most chat in social media. We're going to get the panel to answer the burning questions we still have coming out of that 1 point disaster last week. We will preview the Titans match up in Coffs Harbour. We will have the July edition of the player tiers, who sits atop the Iron Throne and be ranked the top Sharks player right now, according to the esteemed panel of judges. Kelly takes us around the league, and then Franco is going to lead a strategic discussion around what the Sharks should be thinking about in light of the incoming larger NRL as we move towards perhaps even 20 teams. Let's get the boys in. Kelly, are you still angry or have you moved on from last week? What do you got? You all right?
Always angry. Like, I'm not even wearing merch as usual, and I can see you all got merch on, so I'm quite proud of that. But yeah, I'm very proud that you're wearing merch. I'm excited by it. But yeah, it dowers my mood, it dowers my wardrobe, it just keeps me angry, keeps me up at night. It's just those ones that get away. I never mind losing, but it's always the ones that just you should win and just snatch. What did we used to say? Snatching defeat from the jaws of victory. It just really drives me wild, those games. So yeah, the Dolphins and the Dogs really sting me. The Tigers, you can write that one off. Who cares? But those ones that you just should win and don't win just kill me.
Fair enough. Franco, after your epic contract video last week and the Friday night match, have you changed your opinion on any of the off-contract commentaries that you made last week? Or are you happy with the decisions? Or is the video now immediately out of date?
No, nothing's really changed. Look, CK did a good job in bringing me around on Konfusi. Prior to that chat, I kind of thought he was on the outer. But now I'm pretty happy that he converted me. That said, I thought we might have been a bit soft on some of the forwards. Nothing to do with the performance this past weekend, but as players are starting to get healthy, ignoring cap space, it's going to be difficult to get them all deserving game time. So yeah, I'm not sure. There's a few too many there, I think.
That's a good point. Williams, you've done a Chronicles episode, was published this morning on the Titans upcoming match. Anything we should look out for special in that one?
Lots of fun there, as always. I love doing the research, but I'll give a shout out back to you inputting some videos into the piece. So we'll see what YouTube and the NRL have to say about that from a copyright perspective. But,
we might get banned.
We might get banned or pulled down. But anyway, it's still there. Go have a look. Chris Kelly, I have a trip down memory lane to 2010 to the famous Luke Cavell intercept. He's still running. He ran half a kilometre, beat the entire team twice to score. You get to see actually what happened as we chat about that. But it's always fun. Next week, we'll be looking at a classic Tigers game. But you haven't asked me if I'm angry. Still very angry. And I don't think I can be G-rated tonight about Friday night's performance having been there, but that's another story.
Fair enough. All right, well, let's just say g'day to some of the characters that have come in the comments. Ashley's coming in saying that the Sharks are going to win by 20. So that is an early tip. Please do get your tips in now so we can show those during the preview of the Titans match. SJD has confirmed and subbed and unsubbed 99 times just to help us get the job done there. Ashley's saying, love the intro. Yeah, I'm pretty pumped up tonight, actually. So let's be a good, fun show. Harley, the legend, who is still on top of the ET Stand podcast, tipping comp, says go Sharkies and up the Sharkies, and is a bit excited about Daniel Atkinson being named on the wing. And then SJD's called out that if the Sharks, it's a 99% Sharks win, well, if they lose, it is his fault. It's not your fault, SJD. It's probably almost always my fault. All right, well, look, let's get started. Lats has done up the week in socials for us. So we will give his his brilliant work here for me, and I'll just hide that button, try and do his commentaries justice. The week in social media news, according to the Sharks. Well, look, Nico's supporters have come out in droves through the socials this week in support of the star playmaker, claiming those being critical of Nico must have very, very short memories for what he has already been able to achieve for the Sharks at club level. They're urging Sharks fans to stick strong and stick with our number 7, as this form slump and confidence drop will be over before we know it. We're currently still entrenched in the top 4, third in fact, and we're charging to the finals with wind in our sails. Lots of support for Nico, which is very positive to see. Conversely, however, Sharks fans have come down rather hard and ruthlessly on big Toby Rudolph through the socials this week after his ill-disciplined game against the Dogs over the weekend, where his actions led to multiple tries and the square-up penalty to take it to Golden Point. Fans stating that is not good enough, Toby, at the level we want from you, and we should be looking to move him on and use his contract money to re-sign Royce Hunt. It's a big call given it was only one poor performance, and usually Toby has quite a high standard of play and good energy that he brings to the team. Latz's commentary that he puts the calls down to simply fan frustration, and in a couple of weeks we will be cheering for Toby like we always have. We'll cover that in our discussion shortly. Cade Dykes, the Sharks media hit us with some unfortunate news through the week in the way of Sharks young gun Cade Dykes requiring knee surgery to restore cartilage within his knee, and as a result, he will be unavailable for the remainder of the 2024 season. Quite unfortunate for Cade, who I think missed the entirety of the 2023 season, or the majority of it, due to a ruptured ACL, and our thoughts and well wishes with him in his recovery. A favourite of mine, certainly. I would can't wait to see you back on the field, young Dykesy. This one hit my socials this week. There are these little gems popped up for sale on Facebook during the week, a collection that consisted of 48 videotapes of Sharks wins from 1992 to 2003, with most of the tapes containing 2 matches. This sort of footage, it's pretty rare and hard to come by.
How good is it? I can see the win over the Broncos in mid-98 at Shark Park. That's one of my favourite games of all time. And that is on VHS only. Anyway, continue. Sorry for interrupting.
I missed it by 3 hours.
Although,
I wasn't fast enough.
Caveat Williams, they were recorded off TV, so they weren't actually just like production games. The guy did state that he just made his own sort of, like we all used to do, mixtapes on VHS.
Okay.
So.
I did that to the NRL Grand Final in 2016. I've got the ads. I've got everything. I put on. Yeah. Watch the Bunnings ads. Do the whole thing. You got to have the whole experience.
Well, actually, Latz has got in his notes that resident historian Williams can confirm how difficult it is to get any of these. So look, any of this stuff ever comes up, the ET Stand podcast is particularly keen to get footage of old matches for our Chronicle series. But the good news is that I contacted the legend that had these videotapes. And well, of course, as we always do, I then proceeded to have a 45-minute long text message conversation with him about the merits of Nico Hines and the Cronulla Sharks, because why wouldn't I do that? Right. So anyway, he has confirmed that Sharks historian Ash Taylor has taken these videos off his hand and he's in fact donated them to the club. So you are an absolute legend, Paul. So thank you for doing that. And Ash has confirmed in some way that we will get hands on the digital footage of these at some point. So that will be fun. So shout out to Ash Taylor and the great work that he does in the Sharks History Week. And then lastly, look, Latz loves this other team goodwill sporting stuff, doesn't he? At the completion of Friday's Golden Point loss to the Bulldogs, Nico was copping an absolute barrage of abuse from Bulldog supporters whilst heading up the tunnel. It is reported that Stephen Crichton saw this unfold, urged fans to lay off Nico and rushed down the tunnel and checked on him and offered words of encouragement and advice and support before returning back to the field to celebrate with his teammates. A nice, classy act from the Boom Centre, and good to see that, good sportsmanship and just supporting your fellow New South Welshman is still there. So well done to you, Stephen Crichton, even though you are one of my least favourite players in an opposition team. That was Max's socials this week. I think you did a pretty good job of that roundup for us. We've got another comment that's come through.
Here we go. Actually, we'll save those comments for a little bit later. Let's get straight into the discussion points here. I want to bring the boys in off the fence, as the saying goes. Unanswered questions coming in from last week's matches. Look, we were pretty fired up on the debrief post full time, and so I thought I'd recycle some of these questions to give Williams and Kelly a chance to answer. So, Matthew Williams, I'm going to start with you. Questions coming at the weekend's match. Why can't the Sharks kick a field goal and ice games? And how should the Sharks be feeling about Nico Hines?
Okay, it's a double-barreled question. So field goals, icing games. We did it against Melbourne in Melbourne. That was so professional. That was just worked well. What Atkinson kicked it from about 25, 30 out. Just great set, clean ball. Showed what we can do. And I think that could happen with Nico as well. It has happened. 2022, he kicked a field goal against South. That was methodical. It was deliberate. It was perfect. The Broncos, so you guys mentioned the Bulldogs one, in round 2 this year. He hit the post and Nico was actually livid at himself with the delivery or the connection that he had, because everything up to that point was practice, precision, and perfect, apart from the hitting the post. So we can do it on the weekend. I haven't looked at a second of replay. I'm still angry, but watching it live, we just didn't seem, I'm not going to say coordinated, before the first strike by Trindle. Oregon Kafusi was what ruled to being a blocker. And I thought that was a rough call, given the fact that he can't move anywhere, but the rules are pretty clear now. You can't have anyone there. The thing similar to the disruptor call is that it's subjective. A lot of them get away because clearly you got guys in the line, right? And then you pass it to a player behind. They can't disappear. If you suddenly move them out of the way, then you got really no one to swing to the middle of the field for, if you want to keep the options open. It's very telegraphed. So I don't agree with it. But anyway, that was poorly done. And the second one with Nico, he sprayed it. So we talked about the Talakai run. It was too good. It took the ball within 4 meters of the line. And then the pass from Brayley, understandably, wasn't crisp because he was under pressure to get it back further than he otherwise would have, faster, and just didn't provide the delivery that he normally does. So I suppose sample size of 2 there. Everyone's on a pile-on with Nico. Nico is capable of doing it. So twofold, double-barreled. Goal kicking, he went close the other night. I saw him in the warm-up. He kicked them from both positions. Pre-game, do you argue and go, was the pressure on? I'd argue differently. The way that he was striking the ball in the pre-game was he wasn't swinging it as much. They were straighter kicks, and then in the match itself, it curved. So I'm not sure if that's a technique thing or a in the moment thing or a wind thing. You guys were commenting about which way you'd run with the wind or without the wind at a core stadium the other night. I must admit I was there. And there was a little bit of a swirl, but not much. I'd say the wind was essentially negligible. Matt Burden was just absolutely grabbing hold of those from 40. I reckon Burden could have kicked one from 60 meters out, the way he was striking it, especially those first 2 that he missed. One of them was from 45 out, and he could have kicked it from 55. So, yeah, I've danced around it. I think the Sharks are still capable of it. Obviously, we are looking at the sample size of the Roosters final last year where we botched it, and then also this match. I think that we've got the ability to ice games, and we showed it in Melbourne. We've shown it in previous years with essentially the same team. So that's something that is addressable. And I think the other night they blew it for many other reasons other than just that. And then secondly, the Nico factor, I think it's just a complete and utter pile on. And this is a tangent I'm going on, but I was listening to SEN's coverage of State of Origin last Wednesday night where was I going? I was going to get dinner, I think, before Origin. And Brett Morley was being interviewed by Joel Kane and a whole stack of others in the MCC area. There's a lot of background noise. But Noddy, who copped a famous pile-on in 2005, he said that he had no issues at all with his confidence up until he threw that intercept pass to Matt Bowen in the 05 series. And then there was the pile-on. And then everything from there, as he said, pretty much, I'm paraphrasing here, was self-fulfilling. He either wins a game or he doesn't, and therefore he's got no confidence. He's shot. He can't win a game, and everyone's just in their black and whites, yes or no, Trump or Biden kind of thing, where it's like, no, there's grey in this. Nico is still a quality player, and I'll pose the question back to people, is that if we let Nico go right now, as some fans are saying he's mentally shot, get rid of him, how many other teams do you think would line up for him right now? I know he beat the Roosters like that, and I think that 16 other teams would go, yeah, we'll find a way to fit him in. So, no, Nico has no problem, and he's our halfback, and we move forward. And we go on, and we win a comp with him.
Could be an element of game management, I suppose, as well, Williams, there. We're up by 2. Did we need to leave it that late to go for a field goal? If
That's a good point.
Take a field goal a bit earlier, you take the penalty goal out of the equation.
Agreed. We did that in 2016 against the Cowboys on a Monday night at home. Emily was the other way around. We got the field goal first, then the penalty goal. But you're right, it's an untried thing. The only thing I suppose that talks about against that is if we take the field goal, then botch the kickoff, and then they're on the attack 3 points down, it puts the try back into it. But I don't think at that point in time the Bulldogs weren't troubling. I agree with you guys the other night. Up until that Rudolph penalty, the Bulldogs weren't troubling. So the other thing on Nico, I suppose, and I'm going to put Brayley in this part too. I mentioned in the Chronicles episode, eyes up football. We complained about it too much in 2022 when they were trying to score off every play. The other night, there was at least 2 occasions where Nico showed and go, eyes up. He was up against a tired defender. He would have gone through. Instead, he was prepping for it was a bit of second phase play on one occasion. The other one was he was 2 off the ruck, and he was taking the line on, and he kind of set for the next play when it was 10 meters out. Just have a run, mate. And same too with Brayley, not running from dummy half enough, not kicking from dummy half, not adding that extra layer of doubt in the defense mind. I think we've been talking about it. Other podcasts have been talking about it. All the fans have been talking about it forever. It's becoming really evident with the Brayley side of things. The other night, case in point, I think, with an exclamation mark, that we're just not playing eyes up enough. And that's a confidence thing, I think, that it all came to a head there. But you're right. Game management shouldn't have got to that point in the first place.
All right, so we're holding our breath, thinking that he's going to come good. Paul's come through in support of Nico, saying that he is the best player in the game. But then he's contradicted himself a couple of seconds later with another comment saying the marquee players don't miss those.
On that, so sorry to interrupt. How many other marquee players have missed those kicks, though? Jonathan Thurston, absolutely.
Well, they all miss heaps of them, don't they?
Thurston missed in front of Kamali, sprayed one from basically the same position in Golden Point against the Tigers years ago. Jonathan Thurston missed one from the same point at Golden Point against us. Cooper Cronk himself, who was being very savage, I remember seeing him absolutely shank one. He almost hit the corner post. I think it was a Roosters Storm game. 10 metres out, no pressure. No one talks about that. Water off a duck's back, carry on. Matthew Johns talks about the the narcissist in Andrew Johns, where Joey would shank it, and then same as James Maloney, like a goldfish, 2 seconds later, they're trying something else. I think it's just people are just throwing stones because they can, and not remembering the fact that the best players in the game, even an immortal, had similar misses. So, yeah, it happens.
Paul's just cleared up that Crichton is the best player in the game. That's what he was talking about there. And then saying
Angus, yes, of course.
Players don't miss those. And then Quay and Locke, g'day, mate. Poor Nico, that miss was pretty bad, though. I do agree with that. And, yeah, Burton does have a good boot on him. Certainly it comes through. And then, yeah, Ashley's just reminded us that JT had that conversion miss in the 80th minute.
Talk about swinging. Also, Thurston, notorious.
All the good players.
The ball, he kicked it straight and hit the post.
Chris can tell us, there's a Michael Jordan stat of he's missed 80 game-winning shots or some outrageous number.
Oh, yeah. Everyone, like William says, everyone sort of forgets those kind of ones. Like there was one where Nico missed, obviously, the sideline from the Dolphins, and everyone was saying that was it, Moses in, and they showed a highlight of Moses missing from the exact same spot to win a game against us. So it's quick how people forget those kind of moments, don't they? Those misses. Like I know Latrell did it against us down at Sharp Park, missed 3 massive field goals, was in great positions wide open, and we won the game.
He did miss. That's right. He did too.
Yeah. He missed 3.
And he was wide open. Like I was scared watching him line up because he's got a massive boot. And I'm seeing him kick it from 60 before to win a game. And people just forget. Not us historians. We don't forget.
No, and Nico,
that's true. We don't.
The Dolphins game, he kicked 4 from 4 prior to that point. 3 of them were from the sideline. So without his kicking, you don't get in that position in the first place. So I'm not getting all fluffy here. Yes, marquee players should kick that. Got to be the man in those moments. But I think that, throwing Nico out with the bathwater is not the way to go at this point in time.
Having said that, we're probably not going to forget the performance of Toby Rudolph from the weekend. Chris Kelly, is Toby Rudolph done? Where to next for Big Toby?
Well, obviously, I brought it up that his fitness is pretty much shot. It has been for the last couple of weeks, and I keep harping on about it, whether in our group chat or on here, and also in our contract talk. So I think he might need a little bit of a rest. We've got that many forwards we can rotate through at the moment. I think that one was so crucial. Like it was not needed. It was one of those situations where he just reached out because he felt like it. Kennedy had the ball covered up with, within 3 meters of the guy kicking it. He wasn't going through and scoring. So he did get yanked off the field after that moment as well, which is good to see. But it just, you've seen him out there just huffing and puffing at times. And I have said that he's throwing out lazy little situations where, we're getting exposed to the middle where he's just playing too many minutes and he's just behind the 8 ball. So I'm not saying he's done, but we've said for a while, I think that turf toe and a couple of back-to-back injuries have sort of just slowed down old Toby. So yeah, it's probably a crucial time that game. He probably shouldn't have been on the field, but I've been saying that for a while now. So not saying done, but how about have a little rest?
I don't think he's done, but I agree with Kelly. Certainly could do with a spell. I think just freshen up a bit. I don't know how that works though.
Minutes in Newtown Jets though, Vrango? Was that what you meant
exactly.
by a spell?
Can't put him in Newtown. I think you just got to manage him through in training a little bit better, and then as we've seen this week, spoilers, named on the bench, give him a bit more of an impact role instead of a starting role. See how that suits him.
I had in my predictions at the start of the year that I was really worried about Rudolph because the fact that just before I think the first trial, he said in an interview that he was still training with the injured squad and it was to do with his toe. I was like, wow, we are coming up on 12 months. No fault of Toby. It's how bad an injury it is, but the fact that he's not getting the fitness, he's not getting the runs there. And that was in preseason. So that's worrying. He mentioned that he's having a booze break to help his body. All power to him with all the professionalism he's showing, but it's not helping. Clearly, I think it is injuries, fitness, all of the above underdone. And that was just a shocker. I don't think the Jets help, agreed. But all right, you were talking about worst games of all time from players. You mentioned it in the debrief. Lots of variables there. Stewie Mills against the Tigers in 2013 at fullback came to mind, but that was something else being there. And the fact that, what Fitz hooked him, and then also in the post-match press conference said, when they queried him, he said, it's a penalty and just don't do it. Don't do it. Don't give him an opportunity. And Rudolph did.
All right, Williams, who starts at 8, 10 and 13 then in your optimal?
I'm glad you asked.
It's almost like I've set up the questions in an order so they can go.
Talking about booze bans. But Oregon has to be, and I'm going to say, so ideally, so there's two lines of effort here on this question. So when you got everyone fit, our starting props were at the start of the season, I agree. When fit are Rudolph and Hamlin Willie. Neither of them are fit. Both of them have enormous question marks over. You just got to throw them out. And so I think you have to start with Oregon. And I think this weekend we probably should be starting with Royce. Tommy, I think, is underdone as well. Tommy was looking tired again the other day. I think Royce needs that impact to start because in doing so, I'm also puzzled with moving to the team for a second. Teague off the bench. No, Teague starts. It's a shoulder injury. It's not a cardio injury. Get him on the field and you have Talakai come in on impact. There must be some question mark about Teague. If there's a question mark about Teague, then he shouldn't be in the squad. Otherwise, he should be playing 80 minutes and you have Talakai's impact off the bench. So I think...
I thought Teague was pretty good in the middle.
No, he's much better out wide. So I think Talakai has that impact off the bench. And I think given what the team needs, given the slow starts, yes, you may be taking away the power that Royce provides off the bench with a bit of a, I suppose, fatigued setup after about 20 to 25 minutes. But I think at this stage of the season, maybe I'm panicking or hitting the panic button, but I think they're your two props this weekend and the following weekend's coming. 13 is obviously McInnes. And I think McInnes is capable of playing 80 minutes. And despite his drop on the weekend, he was providing quick play the balls. He was providing 10 to 15 minutes every carry. He was doing what he's required to do. And even Jack Williams is an option there too. But I think Jack's providing a lot off the bench. You still need to preserve a bit of that fire off the bench. Toby off the bench scares the living bejesus out of me because if he plays like he did the other day, then we lose that bench impetus. And we've just got to hope that the Titans have a weak bench on at the same time.
I don't know. I mean, we did go on that streak with Kaufusi and Hazelton as the starting props.
Oh, it's so up and down. Hazelton was in form then. So Kaufusi, I think, has maintained his form.
So, I mean, that's
Hazelton,
the question. Why is he out of form? It's not like he had an injury. It's not like, is it just...
He looks tired. He's 24.
Is it getting used to the rigors of the NRL?
Absolutely. I think
hasn't played a full season yet. So
I think that's it. And here's a side point that I saw in one of the forums. I think his name was Fitzman or something, was talking about how he was a scout in Queensland back in the early 2000s when Theo Burgess was there and I'm stealing stuff from the forum here, but this is just someone making a comment. Anyway, apparently he'd offered Quade Cooper, the rugby union player at the time, to the Sharks as a scout as a teenager, and the club said he's not going to stand up to the rigors of the NRL. And I think a lot of it is around the longevity of players. You look at, unfortunately, we're seeing it with Cade Dykes right now, different story, getting soft tissue injuries there and cartilage issues in his knee. But Tommy, it's a huge step up, and I think that he's showing that. So I don't know if you're sending for a spell.
We were certainly surprised to see him starting in round one. So he's lifted. He's getting a full-fisted taste of the NRL this season. That's for sure.
Yeah, that's it.
Paul's come through saying Rudolph should stick to podcasting his guest after 5 minutes. How Colquhoun or Big Tooks aren't put on the bench is mind-boggling. I think I agree with you there, Paul.
Big Tooks was a big out on the weekend, I think. Obviously, he's only providing 10 to 15 minutes, and maybe they're managing his coming into the game too. But
we've got McInnes to play 80, so we should have these big boppers. That's why we have McInnes, so we can do that move. Mike Knight, g'day, Bumblebee Tuner. Yes, you were late. Rudolph is on the bench. He should be on an extended bench. That is a little tough. We're going to answer those other two comments in a second. Kelly, why are the centres not touching the ball in the opposition half?
Oh, it's a big, I went back and watched the game and listened to a few other people talk about it. And you obviously saw, for some on-guard reason, we kept going up against Stephen Crichton. And this is a guy coming off one of the best State of Origin performances. Probably should have been man of the match, but obviously the media darling got that. We'll go into that later. But I don't understand why at the moment I think we need, and it's kind of leaning towards Franco's thinking of pushing the cheat code back in the centres. It just seems like those sort of, he's talked about it before, that Hero doesn't really strike the fear as much as Talakai does. So maybe it's time for the Franco implementation of putting Talakai back in the centre's position, because it just seems. But then again, we were missing Teague on that left-hand side, and we just talked about Big Toops. The only reason he fell out of the team was to bring Teague in, like William said. I don't know why you're doing that when he should be an 80-minute edge-back rower. So with the emergence of him and those lines he's running, and I've talked about it before with Nickera not seeing as much on the right-hand side, and obviously they were going to him a lot more this weekend, and obviously scoring the try under the post. Yeah, it's just a strange sort of thing now. I think with our sort of mixing of our halves combinations, we're just not going out there. Like, I didn't realise that, and Franco's brought it up before, Ronnie's not in the top 10 try scorers in the NRL this season. He's just not seeing that ball that he's used to seeing. So I love Euro. I love having Euro in my Supercoach team. His stats and his things coming out the other end, but maybe it's just time. I don't know. I think they've just mixed it up a little bit and not going down that left-hand side as much with, like I said, it gives straight ball to Teague, or it's out the other side to Ramian, and he doesn't, as Boldo knows, doesn't really pass as much. So I just...
He's like Phil Bailey.
Franco,
I asked you that question.
I've noticed in these games where we're coming out flat and starting slow, we're just going sideways. Like, even against the Dolphins, we're just crabbing across field, and the Bulldogs as well. Like, we've talked about a massive forward rotation, all these guys we've got to come in and play, and we should just be bashing through the middle, and we're just not. We're trying to go sideways way too much. So I think that's just why the centres aren't seeing the ball as much, because we're not bashing through the middle and setting that sort of play up. So, yeah.
The centres are seeing the ball in our 50, but in the opposition 50. Franco, we've touched on this a few times, and I've been thinking about it a lot, and I know you will have reflected on it some more. Like, why aren't they getting the ball in the opposition 50? Like, are we just not John Morris enough?
There's a couple of scenarios that CK touched on there, both with Teague and Nickera. They do run a good line, and they are a favourite for our playmakers to drop the ball into. And then once that line is run, if they've scored, great. If not, we rarely go the blind side, so it heads back infield. So the centers just don't see that ball. And then if we are doing a bit of a sweep play, unfortunately, the centers are getting skipped because we've just sort of touched on how they're not the biggest of passers, especially without Talakai out there next to Ronnie. And if they do get the ball, they're either themselves making a break or dying with the ball. So I think it's just a current state of play where, our playmakers have a preferred choice, whether that's through coaching or just through confidence levels. I'm not sure. But it's certainly a scenario where we did see it a lot more when Talakai was in the centers. Those sweep plays involved the center, specifically him, a lot more, and we went over that way more often than not. I think with Ramian, he needs space, and CK mentioned it, where we are crabbing along a bit. He doesn't get that space. He doesn't get that early ball to wind up, and he really needs that. He's not, doesn't do the short, tap on of the ball. He doesn't have a boot on him. So, unless we give him space and 20 meters, he's not really an option, I don't think.
MW, was the origin period as disastrous as it could have been for the Sharks?
I'm usually a positive guy. I kind of have to be to keep my 6-year-old from being jaded like I have and always am. But I think we've got to put it out there that the origin period went about as bad as it actually went, as bad as it possibly could. I know we got 3 from 6 during that period, 2 good wins at the start, then all fell apart. So it went as bad, outside of us beating the Broncos, it went as bad as it possibly could without any real benefit. So obviously McInnes and Hines played that first match. McInnes, I think, there is some benefit there. He played a big match, so that will help him at the back end of the season with, I suppose, his preparation, being around a high-performing team, how he handles the big moments. Don't think McInnes is a concern there. And Nico, I suppose we've spoken enough about Nico that didn't end well. It's definitely not all his fault, but some of it is. So his performance in game 1, he'll admit, wasn't great. So that's on him. So we didn't get a chance to get the benefit out of him playing game 2. Who knows with Moses' injury game 3? If Moses fell over, I don't think that Nico would be picked. And we didn't get anyone else in that we would have benefited from. I think Talakai would have been a fantastic 14. Was there anyone else that we're talking about potentially being eligible for bolters and the like? Tommy at some stage was Ramian maybe.
Ramian's not as good as Crichton or Latrell. Come on.
No, you're right.
No, for game 1.
So
it's still.
But game 1 when they weren't available and they went Bradman best, I think. So it was Michael McGuire.
Paul's come through and just said crash, crash, crash.
Well, I think Paul is following up
off the back of his second message.
Off the back of his previous one, and I will mention that. So that's
it was too.
It's not going to all fit, or it actually is. It's all crash, crash. I agree. I'll leave that there. It is. So looking back at our winning run, we had quite a few tries through crash plays there. And then also he mentions Kennedy, the ball kind of dying with him. I don't know if it's the fact that the defenses sorted out our slingshot plays. They did back in 2022. Kennedy's getting less room and therefore he's being unable to feed the ball on. I think that was a big difference when we lost Kennedy last year and had, who do we have playing fullback? Tracy. Tracy didn't have the passing game. Kennedy this year essentially he has the passing game, but he's not being able to have that impact and that influence. And we are relying on crash plays and our forward packs run out of puff. So ran out of steam. And watching it the other night, you're right, in that 50, we were just doing set play, put a kick in, or we were too close and we couldn't really swing it. We were just trying crash play, grubber. So, and coming out of our own end, the first half, really, the Dolphins game, this game, other games where we started poorly, we're only making about 30 meters a set, and that's reliant on our backs doing a lot of the heavy lifting and then it's kicking well inside our half. The Parramatta game was the same, being there live. Just kick on the third, kick on the fourth, Brayley or whoever the half is, just hoof it. The wingers don't drop back to the fifth, just hoof it and turn it around. And you see that's exactly what the Bulldogs did the other night in the second half through Matt Burton. When we had them on the back foot, one set, we had them held within their 20. Burton goes and rips out a 60, 70-metre kick, and we only had Kennedy back there. That's what we need to do. Trindle has the boot on him. We need to play smarter, and that is how.
Chris, last question. Should Sharks fans be happy clappers at this point and support the team, or should we be questioning the team's commitment and performance?
Oh, you can always question. That's what we're here for as fans. You know, we go and pay our money, our membership. get stuck into the banter with other fans about our team's performance. But I said to you guys pre-show, I guarantee Sharks fans would take 10 and 5 and third on the ladder. So I'm sticking with the happy clappers. Williams just touched on forwards running out of puff. You look at a team like the Broncos, they're absolutely gassing on the floor. They've got no tank in them left whatsoever, and they're sitting outside the 8. I'll take it over South. Hines got dropped for Mitchell Moses, and he comes back to clubland and still can't get a victory, and they're coming last on the table, or second last because of for and against. So, let's take it as it is. We're still in a really good position. We're still in front of the Roosters, who obviously got the drags this week. The Dogs are happy clappers, and they're coming 5th, and they only just snuck over across us for their, one-on-one victory against us. So we're always going to question. We're always going to talk. We're always going to have talking points where we could have improved. But I guarantee the team's doing that, going up into Coffs Harbour. I'm hoping a little trip up the coast or prep them up and let's go.
I'll have one point on that. So the start of the Origin period, the Roosters Storm and Roosters games showed what we could do. So we talked about that 6-week period. Well, if you're going to pick the ones that we win to get something out of it, we won those games. We showed what we can do. We're having a slump in the middle of the season. That's okay. I'd argue we shouldn't be, given the lack of Origin impact. We only had 2 players in 1 Origin game compared to look at all the other big clubs or the bigger clubs that have been smashed. But we're having this lull. There's time to fix it. Hopefully they do when the season doesn't become 2005. You have to have faith that the team can do something if they get fit and firing like they did in those 2 games.
Franco, you like to boo Santa?
Yeah, I don't know. I do agree with what everyone's saying, and especially with CK about, beginning of the year, would you take us where we are? But in hindsight, as Williams has said, seeing what we have been able to produce against the Storm, against the Roosters, seeing, us at our best, we should be nailing teams like the Bulldogs, like the Dolphins. We should be on top of this. We should probably not be having these slow starts as often as we do. It kind of reminds me of Fitzgibbon's first year, where we had a lot of errors in us. We're still doing well. Obviously, we all know where we ended on the table, like coming second. But a lot of errors in games, which put us under a lot of pressure to just put games away. It meant we were scraping to win those instead of just demolishing teams, letting them all back in on those. And everyone from within the Sharks kept coming out and saying, "Oh, it's just errors. It's easy to fix. It's not a problem. We'll fix this on the day," kind of thing. And it just didn't get fixed. And I'm kind of getting deja vu. We know slow starts. We know what we do. It's a mental thing. It's a application thing. It's not a problem. We'll fix this, but it's just not getting fixed. And while I do have the confidence, it's starting to be a bit of deja vu, and it's a bit scary.
Kean Locke has come through and said, "I didn't think we'd be in this position at the beginning of the year. Expectations are high when AFB joins next." And then Mike Knight's come through. Shoulda, coulda, woulda. Williams is right. Play smarter. It's probably true. All right, let's move on.
Can I just say as well, I agree with Franco with the Fitzgibbon. It's very deja vu, like 2022, because the next couple of weeks is a very soft draw. So it's going to be very close to what it is. We're going to finish in the top 4, obviously, on results, and see how it goes.
All right. Well, look, we've got a few tips have come through now, and there's been no change on the ET Stand tipping comp score because we all tipped the Sharks last week, despite Franco and co trying to stitch me up that I tipped the Bulldogs. I did stay true to the Sharks. So please do get your tips in the chat, and we'll go through all of your comments about the starting team and that in a second. As the Sharks take a home game to Coffs Harbour to take on the 15th place Gold Coast Titans. Eager for a bounce-back match, the Sharks surely this time will come out of the blocks fast and put this match away early. I've learned never to discount the Des Hasler coach team, though. If the Sharks go down here, then we will well and truly have come back to the pack. If we win here, then we keep that distance, which is what we want to do. Williams, how are we shaped up against the Titans in our history, and what's the Coffs Harbour matches look like?
Glad you asked. So we played 3 Coffs Harbour matches. We've got 3 from 3, which I think is ominous for this weekend, which probably means we're due. So we won the first time we played up there against Gold Coast in 2021, just before COVID and everything blew up. That was a 38 points. Sorry, that was a, where are we? 38 points to 10 win there. We also won in 2022, 18 points to 10. That was a bit of a scrappy affair on a Saturday afternoon. From memory, the Gold Coast had a try very late on, denied due to a Sharks knock on in the lead up. As bizarre as that sounds, it resulted in constituted a double knock on, I believe, which therefore the play was dead. So they basically got taken off. And I remember the whole league community blowing up, going, "Oh, the Sharks took it off." And it's like, no, the rules took it off, and they're unlucky. It was a good try. I think it might have been Jaden Campbell. I can't remember who scored it, but anyway. And we beat the Newcastle Knights there on a side point last year. As we know,
are we 3 from 3?
3 from 3 at Coffs Harbour.
I want to know, Williams, if I may,
Yes.
What's the difference between 3 from 3 and we're due to Suncorp and we've got form when we've lost a match?
Oh yes, good question. I like using my thing against us.
Don't make him answer that. You've caught him out. You're up.
I justified it at the time.
You don't have to answer.
Justified the time. We won about 1 out of 5, I think, or 1 out of 4. That was the ratio at Suncorp, which meant that we can win. It wasn't like we'd never won there, like Amy Park in Melbourne before we won there in 2017. We'd never won in a long time. Same as us with Suncorp. We played the first time we won there was 2004. That was the first time we played at the new Suncorp. We didn't win again until 2012. That's genuine lack of form. 1 out of 8 years. This is a bit more. So anyway, yeah. So I unfortunately think we're due for a loss against the Gold Coast. And I think we're due for a loss here. I don't want to sully that. Anyway,
you're not picking the Sharks.
No, but we'll get to that in a second. I've got my reasons.
Just put your tip in.
Okay, Gold Coast by 8. I think they're a very good side.
That's unbelievable.
What? I'd rather throw away my tip. You know what happens when we all tip the Sharks, but I genuinely believe that the Des Hasler coached Gold Coast Titans are a very good side. The Warriors were cataclysmically poor. But if we don't rock up this weekend, they will pile points on and it'll be 22-0 before we know it. And we ain't coming back from that. I don't care what's going on. We aren't. So I think we're in a slump. I think we can get out of it. I think we can still finish top 4, but I don't think we'll win this weekend. If we show up, we will. I have genuine concerns that we won't. So there's my tip there. Also, it's at night. So that means it'll be a bit more dewy. It'll be a bit more slippery. We'll be prone to the odd lost ball and the like. So anyway, that's my tip. Gold Coast by 8, unfortunately. But fingers crossed Williams is wrong and you all get to say, you're wrong. And I agree. I'll take that. But
which will be one of the great moments.
Always is. I embrace your losses. Embrace your.
Well, you're a bit behind in the tipping comp, so I can understand the gamble.
To be honest with you, and I did quote this in our group chat about another topic, I couldn't give any less of a flying fakasha about the tipping comp, just as long as Cronulla are winning. So anyway, here's my tip. But we're talking about history here. So we've played a total of 26 times. The Sharks have 17 wins. The Gold Coast have 8. There's been 1 draw. We know what that draw was. Can anyone tell me when it was, where it was?
Against Gold Coast.
Against Gold Coast.
Wasn't it a Shark?
No, against South.
I can't remember.
You're all over streaks. So if I mentioned streak.
Oh, that's right. We lost the streak, of course.
Yeah, so we lost the streak without losing the streak.
2016, the streak.
Greg Bird had a blinder. Goal, yeah, the Fafita try, all that stuff. So anyway, that's the 1 draw. We lost our first match in round 2, 2007, against them at Carrara Stadium. Preston Campbell scored that try.
Remember that?
18 points to 16. Fraser Anderson scored the opening try after about 12 seconds for us. Does anyone remember who got a double that night?
It was like Mitch Brown or someone really not significant.
Yeah, I couldn't see.
Yeah, same.
Yeah, we couldn't see. I was at that match. I couldn't see a single.
Yeah, we were at that match and you couldn't see. It was ridiculous.
If I say that's a clue there, what I'm now.
John Williams or whatever the hell.
John Williams was playing then. John Williams was writing the music for Star Wars when that was
Reese Williams.
Reese Williams, correct. Reese Williams.
Wasn't there didn't we have the Wolfman's brother?
Yeah, we did.
What was his name?
John Williams.
Oh, well, there you go. So it wasn't
but not then. We didn't have him then. We signed him in 2011. Anyway.
All right, we signed him in 2011.
Yeah.
All right.
Anyway, so that was that. That I'll touch on probably not that game, but another game, another time. We went lost, win. As Kelly and I were talking about in the Chronicles episode, that the Gold Coast did have a good record against us. We are actually on a massive winning streak. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 wins 9 wins in a row against the Gold Coast. The last time we lost to them was 30 points to 10 in an absolute monsoon, a cyclone midway through 2017. That was, I think, very close at halftime. It was Gold Coast 8-0. We scored early to bring it back to 8-6. And then that one blink and you miss it, they just put on 1,000 tries through just us like mishandling kicks and the like in torrential weather. So, I've mentioned what I think will happen. Total points scored overall, for those that like that stat or don't like that stat, is Cronulla Sharks 569 to the Gold Coast Titans 405. And of course, this record doesn't include our record against the Gold Coast Tweed Seagulls Giants Chargers. End of
Fair
round.
enough. Oh, Williams, that was just brilliant. All right, here's Kelly's going to take us through the
we're going different side.
the team list.
Yeah.
Team list here. All right, let me hit the music for you. Hold on 1 second. Hold on.
Hit my music.
All right, hit the music. All right, Chris Kelly takes us through the team list.
So obviously Will Kennedy. Oh, here we go. We've got to wait for it to start. It's such a delay. Will Kennedy comes in at number 1. The big surprise. Newtown Jets, and there was no Stone Street around whatsoever. So we've got Atkinson, Ramian, and Iro, Mulatalo, Trindle, Hines, Hazelton to start, Blake Brayley, Kafusi, Nikora, Talakai, and Cam McGuinness, the captain. On the bench are Williams, Hunt, Rudolph, and T. Wilton. If we flip over to the Gold Coast team, which was another young production of fullbacks with Keano Kennedy playing a fullback, my favourite try scorer in AKP. Not my brother Brian Kelly, Philip Summy, and not the big Fafita, but Jojo Fafita. AJ Brimson comes in for our favourite Preston Campbell's son at number 6, and old man 4 and still running around at 7. Big Fodawaker, Verrills, Clark, big Fafita, Fermor back to the second row, Chris Randall, Isaac Louis, Pulaluhu, Palasiha, and Stinsoni come in onto the bench. So Gold Coast team, obviously coming off a bye, played the Warriors last and absolutely put a 66-6, I believe, scoreline. An absolute flogging of the Warriors, like Williams touched on a bright sunny day in the Gold Coast. But on the back of what Williams said, a 6 p.m. kickoff, a dewy night, my man on the ground, Garth Roberts up there in Coffs Harbour, texted me tonight and said it's absolutely teeming down in Coffs Harbour. It's supposed to rain all week and up to the match. So Williams said last time we lost to the Titans in a monsoon, 30-10, so it doesn't bode well for us. But in a twisted irony, I'm going to tip the Sharks. Nico Hines to kick a field goal and win by 1.
Oh, yes. Oh, how good.
You like that?
Let's just go
what
through.
Yeah,
that was a good bounce. Let's just talk to this team for a second. So a whole bunch of comments coming in. Craig Gearon's asked us, why is Atkinson on the wing? Lots of coverage in the halves. Now, Franco, do you want to field that one?
Yeah, sure. No worries. So Sam Stonestreet, who is next man up, is ill. So he is unavailable for selection. And Hirotti fractured his eye socket in the Jets match last weekend. So he is also unavailable. The, I guess, next wing option could be Rodwell, who has not seen any NRL games, has only seen a couple of the pre-Challenge Cups. This year's pre-Challenge Cup wasn't that hot. Last year's pre-Challenge Cup was pretty good, scored a try. He is a winger, so, don't mix it up, just put like for like. Maybe that's some people's thoughts, but he is named on the extended bench. So there could be a late change there to bring him in if so desired. I don't think it would happen though. I think you might be tempted to, and I think I saw a comment.
SJD came through with this one, Franco.
Yeah, that's the one. So moving Iro to the wing and put Talakai in the centres and then Wilton to start. There's a lot of changes there, but I think that also makes sense for the balance of the team. I know Iro had a bit of a bad first half in his debut match on the wing, but his second half was fine, and he has played fullback for the World Cup. He's good under the high ball. I don't think there would be a problem with him on the wing. And he's also, as we all know, very good at yardage in our own half. So he'd be able to take those carries and kick returns back with the plum. So there's a couple of options there. Atkinson being named at 2 isn't a guarantee that he'll be there.
Kean Locke's calling for Colhoun, and kind of Paul, I think, is implying Jesse picked the bench. And Williams 2.0 is picking a hat trick for Ronnie, which is pretty ambitious. So maybe we should bet on that one. And then SJD's just called you out, Williams, and just said April Fool's Day was a few months ago.
I wish I was joking. I wish I was joking.
Kelly, give us your tip.
Yeah, I said Nico's going to rebound and kick a field goal.
Oh, yeah, you said by a point.
One. So I actually agree with that. I actually would have shifted Euro to the wing, put the cheat code back into his preferred centre position, promote T. Wilt to the starting team. He could have brought Tupahua or slot Atkinson back to the bench as a little utility. So I think they might mix around with that team. But from all reports from a social man, Lats, he was saying that Atkinson has been training on the wing this week. So let's see what he comes up with. But if you're the Titans and a smart man like Kieran Foran, there's probably a few little bombs coming Daniel Atkinson's way on the weekend.
We know Dan Atkinson can run it.
Yeah, I don't think Rod will debut, but Fitzgibbon and other coaches have form of naming a player on an extended bench if they're going to give him a debut to both, I suppose, protect them and also keep the opposition guessing. But obviously that
just seems odd to put Daniel Atkinson in number 2, though, doesn't it? Just seems a odd thing to not do it. Like to name him there and then not put him in just seems an odd thing, I guess.
You want a TBA. You're just asking for a TBA. That's all you want.
Yeah, TBA is
one time a TBA. Yeah.
Franco, who are you picking?
Oh, yeah, I'm Sharkies. I think we're going to get the goods. Coffs Harbour's our spiritual home ground. It's treated us well. It's going to continue to treat us well. We've got form there, so we will come out and get the win. I think it's interesting that that Talakai, regardless of any potential swap outs and changes, has kept his spot in the back row, and Wilton hasn't just been named in the back row. So that's an interesting one. I suppose watch this space if it stays the same. But I'm very glad that Campbell's out. He's got a patch of form at the moment. He's doing well. So, yeah. But now that I've said that, watch Brimson come out and absolutely shred us to pieces. So, but yeah, Sharks for me.
All right.
Brimson's I'm playing for an origin spot, apparently.
What, for 5'8"?
Somewhere in the team, probably 14.
Everyone in Queensland's under question at the moment.
Nah, Queensland can win. All right. Well, look, I'm gonna tip the Sharks to win. Is my tip. Sharks win by 13+. I think we're going to do it easy. Titans are rubbish. They're 15. They haven't won as many matches as anyone else. They got lucky against the Warriors, who are hot and cold. Said Sharks are their bogey team. I'm a firm believer that teams that beat teams typically beat teams. That makes sense.
Sure.
Very eloquently put.
Teams that beat teams typically beat teams. All right.
Just score more points in opposition, you'll win.
For those that need subtitles, what Boldo's saying is styles make fights. And he's saying that the Sharks style usually beats the Titan style.
That is correct. Rock normally beats scissors.
Exactly.
There you go, Matthew. Just making me a better person all the time. All right. We're going to move on. We are moving on to Boldo's Tears. So an eagerly anticipated segment every single month when we do this bad boy. This is the segment where Boldo and esteemed panel get together. But this month, we're kind of doing it as a kind of different theme. And so I'm just going to pull this file up right now. And I've got no idea how you guys are going to react to this. But this is Boldo's Tears, the introductory
yes, you do.
to this. I think you're going to love it, but I don't know what's going to happen. Is
Oh,
it
no.
stopped just for me? What is it doing?
It's frozen.
Done.
It's
You've
frozen.
broken it.
Oh
Hey.
no! It's so good.
Copyright kicked in.
Oh no!
Copyright pulled it
Kill
down.
us.
HBO come knocking.
This video is gone.
Oh no! What's it done? There we go.
There we go.
Oh,
Hold on.
I'm the
I'll go
11-minute
back a couple of
consultant, Carl
seconds.
Faliga.
Come on, that's pretty good. All right, that was
That's
the
great.
introduction to Boldo's tiers, where Boldo ranks the top players. You'll get it in a second, Mike. I promise you'll.
Can
get
I
it
just
in a
say our
second.
production value is going up and up every week. It's just getting better and better.
All
Wait
right,
till
this
where it
is
can't.
All right, so this segment is where Boldo ranks the Sharks players according to who he and his esteemed panel thinks are performing the best right now, not according to the salary cap, not according to the daily endpoints, but based on the position they play, how much we pay them, and how much of a legend we just think they are. So without further ado, it is a Game of Thrones themed set of Boldo's tiers this month, because obviously House of the Dragon's back, and I thought that would be a little bit of fun. So these guys, well, they're not even in the credits. So Peru, Tacoma, Burns, Beryl, Bradbury, Gabriel, Harodi, Dyke, Stone Street, and then recently added Rodwell, who doesn't even have a photo yet on the Cronulla Sharks website. You guys are not even in the credits, so don't get much of a mention, but hopefully you'll be in the show soon. On to the next, into the tiers. Well, the first tier. These guys, unfortunately for them, we're sending them to the wall. That's right, Toby Rudolph and Braden Hamlin-Ueli, you are just being dispatched out of the kingdom, up to the wall, because you are dishonorably discharged. You can't seem to make the team, or you're bloody hopeless last weekend. So I don't know what's going on with you guys. So you guys are sent to the wall. The next tier of players, Lenore Valerian. For those that don't know, Lenore Valerian kind of disappeared, but he's still alive in the latest season of House of the Dragon. And so we're not sure whether he's going to come back or not, and what's going to happen when he's going to come back into the show, if it's going to be exciting or if it's going to be a thing. And that's what's going on with Atkinson, Jesse, Tuku, and T. We don't know if these guys, when they're going to come back in, how they're going to come back in, and what sort of impact they're going to be. And they are potentially going to be big players in the show, but we're not sure what's going to happen. So they're all on the Lenore Valerian tier. Next up, on the next tier, we've got Jamie Lannister. Jamie Lannister has got one arm because his arm got cut off. He's a very handsome human being. But he's a bit, you're not unsure whether you like him. Sometimes you like him, sometimes you hate him. And so much like Jamie Lannister, our dear captain Cam McInnes, because he's missing a tooth, just like Jamie Lannister is missing an arm. Cam McInnes has moved significantly down the tiers this month. On to the next. We have the imp, Tyrion Lannister, who started the Game of Thrones show really positively, was like the top one, the one that we were most interested in, the one that we thought was a legend. And then as it got towards the end of the show, well, he sucked. And quite frankly, that's you at the moment, Tom Hazelton, because at the start of the season, you were brilliant, and now you haven't been quite as good. And much like the imp, you're really, really tall. All right, on to the next. Daemon Targaryen, the ruthless but loose cannon. You're not sure what you're going to get with Daemon Targaryen. He's a little bit loose. And on that row, we've got Williams, Braden, Kaoliro, Jesse Raymond, and Kafusi. This one's a pretty stacked kind of list because these guys kind of go missing, just like Daemon Targaryen goes, but then sometimes he comes back and he just wins battles for his queen wife. So he's kind of a hot and cold kind of character. So that's why we've got these guys on the Daemon Targaryen list. On to the next, the King's Council. There we've got Littlefinger and Varys from Game of Thrones there. Pretty useful characters, pretty helpful to the king and the important players, but they're not like absolutely critical, and sometimes they kind of go missing. You're not sure what they're kind of doing. So this is the King's Council, but pretty important characters in Game of Thrones. So they are Varys and Littlefinger, that being Blake Brayley, Will Kennedy, and Sione Katoa. On to the next tier. Well, we've got the gorgeous, beautiful Daenerys Targaryen. And taking the position of Daenerys Targaryen, we have Nico. Why? Because Nico, like Daenerys, is beautiful. And like Daenerys, loves fire, but like Daenerys, can't handle ice. And Nico, at the moment, can't seem to handle ice in games at the end of the matches and seems to lose the plot at the end of the season or the end of the show, just much like Daenerys did. Oh, God, I had way too much fun doing this. On to the next. We got Jon Snow. So very handsome man, key guy, absolute legend. Wins a whole bunch of battles, absolute beast. And on the Jon Snow row, we've got Britain Nakora and Ronaldo Mulatalo. And because these guys are just absolute legends, everyone loves Jon Snow, and these guys are there. On to the next, we have Valor, the largest, biggest, baddest dragon in the land. And the biggest, baddest dragon in the land is Seo Sifatalakai, because the final boss is just big, bad, just difficult to deal with, and the most powerful, and not someone you want to come up against, which leads us to who is the king, who is sitting on the throne, who is the top Sharks player right now. And as we know in Game of Thrones, the king frequently changes, and they get knocked off every couple of weeks. And so much like Game of Thrones, the current king, well, it's King Royce. And so King Royce, based on the form of the last couple of weeks, is the top Sharks player right now, according to Boldo's tiers. I think this might be the best one of these that I've done yet. Franco, what do you think of the tiers? Where do you start?
Oh gosh. Well, ignoring the reasons for why they are where they are, certainly Cam McInnes should be a little bit higher up the chain. Lannister, he was pretty crucial towards the end there, and I think I think you're doing McInnes a dirty by keeping him that low. He should be a bit higher up than that. But yeah, a good list, mate. Well done.
Anyone you'd move lower?
Well, I mean, I would probably push him above Jon Snow. So he comes in above, well, maybe not, above Daenerys, Mother of Dragons. He gets up above there. So slide everyone else.
You reckon
down
he's better than Nico?
Yeah, at the moment he is. Yeah, he's been busting a gut. He even, if you want to include the Origin performance, he did really well there. So excusing the one dropped ball on the weekend, he's been killing it. So, yep, absolutely.
Williams, who would you move up and down?
For those that aren't fans of Game of Thrones, I'm one of them, probably in the minority in the entire world. It's crazy. I've seen a few episodes. I'm aware of what it is, but I thought we'll go talking about Hunger Games initially, so I was waiting for, I don't know, what's his name?
Katniss Everdeen.
Katniss Everdeen. Who's the guy that just died? Donald Sutherland to rock up. So we're talking about
President Snow.
Kravitz.
Game of Thrones, not Hunger Games. But so I definitely put Cam much higher. I think that if you look at tiers right now, if we lost Cam, I think our forward pack would be in all sorts. And I genuinely think, agree with Franco, apart from the loss, the drop ball the other day, that he should be ranked much higher. I'd also try and put in, so what are we looking at, the Valerian line? Stone Street. I thought Stone Street, if he wasn't ill this week, would definitely come straight back into it, and he'd be much more than a guy that's not even in the credits at all. He'd be much part of the supporting cast there. But outside that, I think you've nailed it. I did quite enjoy some of your lines there. So I will give you this, that your New York one was very clever. I'm starting to get it. I know you think that I'm illogical or logical there. I'm starting to get it, and I can see the fun you had here, and I hope that the audience had fun too. I'll give you that one. Well played.
Chris, masterpiece, isn't it?
Oh, are you ready?
I'm ready.
Look, I'm ready. First credit to the boys that the intro was unbelievable. Like, we're getting production levels through the roof now. We're getting intro videos. We're getting our names across the HBO screen of Game of Thrones. Franco, how many seasons were there of Game of Thrones?
8, I believe.
8. So Boldo's now, we've had 8 seasons, probably 200 odd characters, and Boldo decided to use 1, 2, 3 lines for a series that's just started 200 years before Game of Thrones. So we will just ignore that. If I was ever going to take the black, and I'd love to take the black and go to the wall, be very happy to go with Toby Rudolph and Hammanuelli to the wall. What great men to stand next to on the wall and piss off the edge of the world and take on some White Walkers and whatever else shenanigans they get up to.
But Toby, you just said Toby's been out of form and he should get a spell.
Yeah, but I'm saying I'd happy if I was in Game of Thrones, I'd take the black and I'd be happy to go with those two guys. As if you wouldn't want to bed down next to those two guys. It'd be great.
That's true.
It'd be great.
That's true.
I like that Cam McGinnis is missing a 2C. I like him to Jamie Lannister missing a whole arm, but he only lost his right sword hand. So I don't know when he lost his whole arm, but he only lost one hand. And then he had a replacement gold hand, just like Cam did his teeth. So I like the alignment. The King is probably about as useful as your favourite character in Bran the Broken. So I don't know what King Royce is doing up there. I thought season 8 was the greatest piece of television I've ever seen, and it goes along with your Game of Thrones. So well done. This is a great tease.
Ton firmly in cheek. The shame there, I suppose, to put it back in a season perspective, is that we've got our starting props, 2 guys that we've re-signed, 2 guys we had concerns, but hope for. Our starting props we are sending to the wall, and I think that's indicative of where we're at right now. We're playing without a starting front row, and I suppose we're copping a lot of stick right now, but that shows where we're at. I think you take the starting front row out of any team. Sure, we've got some guys that have been able to stand up and do an admirable job, but some of them are starting to fall by the wayside, like Tom. That I think distills it best for me, looking at, okay, that's why we're not going as well as we could or should be. So,
because Toby Rudolph and Hamlin-Ueli really should be sitting above the Daemon Targaryen row, really.
Yeah,
and that's where we were hoping that they would be. And if if
I
probably would have gone. Yeah,
Katoa's in there.
Katoa's in the King's Council.
King's Council.
Yeah, I think he probably means he wants him as the king. But I was just about to say that I'd probably swap. Nicara, leave him as his own bloke in Jon Snow. Bring Ronnie down onto the council and find his own spot for Katoa. Maybe a Brianna Tarth or something like that. So, or maybe even
it comes back to that Katoa. I think Ronnie is better than Katoa. We talked about this a lot.
At the moment, I'd talked about it before. Ronnie's not in the top 10 try scorers at the moment.
Yeah, but that's because
Katoa is.
Kale Lero's not passing in the ball, and Ronnie keeps getting assists.
Well, you put him up higher. The only other one I probably would have said, I probably would have thrown in a bit of you could have put the shame on Toby.
I could have put
either that or the sausage eater, and he's a bit of a villain.
Yeah.
Got to put the shame on Tony.
Mike Knights asks, where are you putting the coach, Boldo? I'll pose you that question.
The coach is probably sitting around the Jamie Lannister position at the minute. I don't think he's hitting the lights out.
Give him a Tywin Lannister. Tywin
Lannister is a beast. He'd be like the top guy.
Or maybe even the Hand in the new House of the Dragon.
We could have
what his role is.
Could have done this until we went blue in the face. But all right, that was
good tease. Great tease.
We'll put it up on the Instagram for anyone to have a look. But it's a lot of fun. If you would like us to do a specific theme tiers at any point, let me know in the comments, and we will visit that in future. And can I just point out that no one left watching this show whilst we did the crazy tiers, so I guess it worked. All righty, that was Boldo's tiers this week. Next, we're going to move around to Chris Kelly's Around the League. Chris, why don't you give us all the news that the Sharks fans might want to consider given the happenings right now?
Oh, well, obviously we start off with New South Wales' emphatic win over Queensland in Game 2. Start off with a nice 34-0 halftime deficit, and went on to win 38 to, I think, 12. What did we have? 12 or 18 maybe. The media darling, like I said, 18. Mitchell Moses replacing Nico Hines at 7, got man of the match. They credited him with 4 try assists. 2 of them were pushed a little bit out of try assist range, but we'll give it to him. So, like I said, everyone's singing the praises of Mitchell Moses, but he's currently sitting last in the ladder without a coach at the moment, so we'll see how that goes out. But he's obviously going to be selected in Game 3. I saw Madge Maguire speaking to Matty John's podcast and said any changes will be based on injury only, and he's spoken to Nathan Cleary, who's on the verge of return, said he wouldn't actually want to go into that team given that what Moses has been through and playing in form at the moment. So I guess we're all wrong. Bit of egg on our face, New South Wales winning by such a big margin, but we'll see what happens to a Mitch Moses in Game 3 under pressure. On to the next one. You go.
Kind of the same as was it last season, Kelly? Lost to Queensland, came back with a barnstorming win, and then got smashed in Game 3. So
just like you've got the script, Franco, in Origin.
Yeah.
2020 was the same. They won by 40 or something obscene, and then came back to Queensland. It was all over. Oh, actually, that was the cracker. And then last year was just blown out within the first few minutes.
You give me that New South Wales team down by 6 to 10 points of Moses out at Suncorp, and we'll see what happens. But anyway, it's not sour grapes with Moses over Nico that everyone thinks it is. It's more that he just was the one that he's getting dumped on at the moment. It's a bit unfair because
he got lucky. Nico would have won by 40 points if he was in that team as well.
Correct. I don't think the team they picked in Game 1 was helping Nico or any player in that team, given they had Robson, Luai, Teddy, and Nico. It was a defensive picking team with Cam as well. So completely different team. They had Latrell, who absolutely killed it, and a forward pack who absolutely dominated Queensland. And if you were a Queensland versus swap it over to New South Wales side, they'd probably dump about half a dozen blokes. But Queensland don't do those. Like Reece Walsh didn't exist in that game. I did and got smashed. It was just one-sided affair. But anyway, onto this weekend, some big news. Go.
Not that we care, as you mentioned, Moses missed a kick very similar to Nico Hines the other night against the Knights that missed the opportunity to keep them in touch. I think he missed 2 kicks, actually. He scored 2 tries, but his kicking wasn't all that crash shot. He wasn't kicking in Origin because of his foot soreness, so that low max kicking. But yeah, it's just the media and their agendas just go and get Fakashin, please. The other part too, I'm taking a side point. What about Billy Slater just having we're
still Queensland.
Yeah, just a bit of a weird moment in the presser there. Bizarre, but I'm still not sure what happened.
Big news this week in fullbacks returning. Obviously, Pappenhausen came back a couple of weeks ago but missed this game last week, and he's back in the fullback position. Big surprise return in Kalen Ponga coming back. Most people thought he was going to be gone to at least the last couple of rounds, so he's come back from a foot injury. And Tommy Turbo returns, but not in fullback. They're going to test him out in centre and see how he goes and see if they can try and save his hamstring. So a couple of big returns into the league this week, so we'll see how that goes. Our good friend at 360 in the Daily Telegraph, Paul Krent, it's been reported by these guys that he'd actually been axed from those 2 jobs. So as you can see, he's out the back door, mate, never to be seen again. So we'll watch his space where he pops up in the UFC, boxing, or his own little podcast show. But good to know he's actually been what he normally calls for other people getting sacked over indiscretions. The tree won the fight, and he's getting his job taken away from him. So interesting. Franco, will you miss Paul Kent in that?
I will, mate. I mean, I've got to say I didn't like him. I don't like him. But ever since Ben Eichen left the show, he really, I do feel he held the show together and gave it a grounding opinion. I know he played a bit of the villain, but and this could be why he's gone as well. He also looked as though he was a little bit over it, right? He was starting to call a spade, and it was quite refreshing. Without him there, I think the other journalists are sort of running a bit riot over that show, and it's a bit predictable and boring. So it is sad if he's gone to see him go. That said, I haven't been watching the show too much lately, so maybe it's great without him.
There were a few players publicly and privately also on their socials might have been cheering the decision. So a guy that slings mud, and it's actually landed on him this time. So we'll see what happens.
I will say, regardless of all that I'm sure he's going through his own mental challenges right now, whether self-induced or otherwise, that all the very best to Paul Kent in that challenge, because anyone that lost their job or has experienced that, it's a horrific thing, let alone all the circumstances around this. But yeah, I agree with Franco that having Braith and Asta there, both being a player manager and the vested interest that all that involved, and the host and an ex-player and opinionated, really doesn't lend well to a quality show. So...
All righty, Vegas 2025 update. So 95% sure that For Sharks fans, we're travelling to Vegas in 2025. The other teams include Canberra, Penrith, and the Warriors. It should be a Penrith and Canberra home game against one of those oppositions. So we're actually rubber stamped near. Hasn't been 100% confirmed by the NRL, but a lot of speculation from newspapers saying it's pretty much a done deal. They're also going to include the Gillaroos versus an England game as an opener, and they're also considering 2 Super League teams to come over and play in those games as well. So we might actually have quite a few games and try and pump up a bit more interest, given that, a lot of English fans like going to Vegas as well. We might get a bit of a World Cup feel over there, and especially with the girls playing English, it might be a bit of a fun time, a bit of a magic round maybe. So I'm starting to do the math and save some pennies and see how we go, but dreams can be made. So we'll see. Thoughts, Williams?
It was a twofold. The NRL has bought the Super League, so I think that's a fantastic idea to get to round one or a certain round of the Super League there too. I think that would do nothing but add to the fanfare and the festivities there. That'd be fantastic. I believe, well, I'm worried. So the 95% part, I'm just waiting for the rug to be pulled out from under us in true NRL style. The Sharks are going, they're going. Oh, what's that? The Roosters are going. Oh, that's right. Yeah, thanks, guys. Sorry about that. No, that's just the negativity in me. But if we go that way to play the Panthers, that's a long way to go to lose 42-0. I think I will be advocating for the 2 to be taken there, just to take some points home. Yeah, so I'm excited and worried all at the same time.
I did say this, we make the trip over there and all of a sudden everyone goes, it can't be you travel that far to go and see them lose. But I'm like, it's not about, if you know Vegas, it's not about going over there to watch a football game. That's just
they're not going to lose. We're due. What are you talking about?
Yeah, we're due. We've got a good record over in Vegas. And it's also due, Matty, because Melbourne pulled out of they were in talks to go. So they were actually the team that pulled out. And I'm sure our illustrious host will make a show happen over there live from outside Allegiant Stadium.
How good would it be?
Did the Raiders replace the Storms? The Storm was touted. They pulled out the Raiders. I wonder what the Storm's rationale was. Was Bellamy just didn't want to do the travel, or
he's probably looking one eye onto the World Club Challenge and probably the travel and the disruptions of the season next season. So,
I guess if the Sharks do win, there's no guarantee they go to.
Correct. Or they do the World Club Challenge in Vegas.
Yeah,
I guess that's maybe right. All right, on to the next merch.
On the back of our retro Reebok jersey they launched the other week, League and Legends have launched their own retro jackets this week for all teams, including things like the Steelers are out there. But obviously this beautiful piece of merchandise has come out with the Aussie Ducks. Looks fantastic. Myself, I'll be lining up to buy one. So if you guys all love the retro round, I'm sure I need a bit of new merch, but I need the Sharks to win to wear it proudly around town. So I'm sure I'll be buying one of these ones. So Sharks fans, get onto League and Legends and go have a look. They're pretty spectacular. I'm sure the Shark store should have them in stock shortly, but something new. Again, everyone's living on the retro stuff. And that's around the league.
Thank you, Christopher Kelly, for Around the League this week. All right, last segment of the show. There's been lots of chat with the NRL considering expansion into PNG, Perth, and North Sydney Bears, and a whole bunch of different chats going on. Regardless of whichever team is selected, I think the writing on the wall with the 17-team comp, that certainly an 18th team is coming in, and maybe even a 19th and 20th. So as we do on this podcast, we consider the strategy of all things as it relates to the Sharks and how they should deal with any of these scenarios as they're presented to them. Cronulla Sharks are brilliant at dealing with the Super League war, and the decision to jump ship to the Super League at the time was the correct one, as was the removal of the name Cronulla from our overall name so that anyone that merged with us would have to be called the Sharks. So the brief's into Franco. What do we need to be thinking about this as the Sharks head into this era of the NRL? How does this alter our strategy? What would you be doing if you were CEO? Dino Mezzatesta.
Yeah, so this is obviously a very different situation to what occurred with the Super League wars and the consolidation thereafter. But to make sure that I was on the point, I did send a message to my good mate Volandis, and he got back to me and he said, let me just bring it up here. No, you're sweet, mate. So basically, it is looking like they're going to try and push to 20 teams. I don't think we've got anything to be worried about. He's spoken highly about suburban grounds. He's spoken about tribalism, not to mention the NRL purchasing the Quest Hotel right on our doorstep. I think we are in a pretty strong position moving forward. But the whole point of adding teams is not to look at removing teams. 17 teams now. We mentioned probably 20 teams. Odds on that will be a team in Perth, a second team in New Zealand, and then likely either the fabled PNG team or another Queensland team. So I think in talking about strategy, it's not really a strategy about survival. It's a strategy about continuing to perform on the field. And for us, we've invested a lot of time and effort in our Pathways program. So we get a lot of first picks from within our basin. Likely more teams will mean more broadcast money, which means more NRL handouts, which then equals a higher salary cap. It's all a bit of a circle in that sense. But so long as as the talent pool thins out, because there will be a bit of a consternation of stretching the talent pool before it builds itself back up again. So long as you've got a talent pool to draw from and get those first picks, you are able to stay strong. And as we all know, the stronger you are, the better better pull you have of acquiring talent. So you want to stay in that top tier sort of range, so that if a player does come on, you're not spending overs to try and get them. You're not clawing your way back up the ladder from a losing position. And that's all it comes down to. It's sticking the faith in the juniors, because we don't want to have to go to market. We don't want to have to try and bid for various players to fill positions, maybe cherry pick one or two, but keep the pack together and keep going with this junior development. We've got a great junior nursery. Sure, we haven't had a lot of success in terms of premierships, but looking at the team, looking at who we've got, we are in the top 4, and that's through a lot of players that have come through our pathways. So we're doing the right thing. Stick the path.
Williams?
I've got a few points here. So I completely agree that with Franco, it's not the rationalisation we saw in the late 90s and the Super League War and all that stuff. So as recently, I think it was 2017, it came out that Todd Greenberg had tried to, and I'm going to name his name because he was named in the report, I suppose it was leaked afterwards, that the Landys basically addressed and said, this is not happening. They tried to move the Sharks to Perth. Simple as that. The club, or the competition for a long time, there's been this chat about the fact that the player depth isn't enough to sustain let's say an 18 or a 20 team comp, that we need to go as national or as broad as we possibly can with, let's say, 16 teams or 18 teams, not 20. Hearing Matthew Johns on SEN the other day, he was saying that he believes it's not I think he may be paraphrasing Phil Gould here, actually, not a player drain or a dearth of talent. It's a dearth of playmakers. So we have one in Nico. You hold on to Nico there. He also said, too, this is a Bob Fultonism. So mod football, I haven't been around junior league in a long time, and I'm around it again now. There was a recent change about 10 years ago where previously they weren't allowed to pass the ball until about I think it was under 12s. So basically playmakers are being stifled in an ability to, I suppose, an effort to try and share the game around. One pass off the ruck, one player runs. Now they've got the bibs for the hooker and the halfback that allows them to actually ball play. And in doing that, Matt Johns said that, so Bob Fulton came through and said, look, we can't have playmakers learning how to play make at the age of 12, like soccer. They've got to be learning how to do that from the age of 5. Doesn't quite happen too much, but it does in the 7s and the 8s, 9s. There's a huge change in that development now. And he said that there's a huge, I suppose, bow wave of talent coming through in the halves now that will, I suppose, alleviate a bit of that. So there's a belief that for once that the talent is there. We've had an awful lot of injuries across this the competition this year. I think it's off the record with regards to definitely hamstrings and calves. Yet we were talking about the crackers. Was it the Storm Dolphins game that was injury affected, origin affected, absolute cracker the other night. So I think the quality's there. The game's at an all-time high, or since let's say 1994, 1995. So the game ought to take advantage of that and move into these markets. For us, what does that mean? So something I did like, and that's what I was looking at just before. So I heard Franco use the term strategy. A podcast I was listening to about other things, a very smarter man than I am, found a definition of the strategy and said a strategy is a plan to ensure ongoing advantage. So I think that's obviously the Sharks need to be constantly looking 5 to 10 years in advance, not the short term, not looking for that premiership window win. Agreed. You build your team around, let's say, a Nico or someone else. You look for your next big, marquee player, and then you build around that. And I think we've spoken about offline. You aim to finish top 4, maybe top 8 for that ongoing period. And then if you jag a premiership in there, awesome. If you don't, and we get the tag, hey, you're like the North Sydney Bears in the 90s, you had 6, 7, 8 prelims and didn't win anything. That's okay, because that's constantly got us at the top echelon there. We've got that premiership in 2016 versus you do the Hail Mary, which I'd argue we did in 2016. Got the premiership, but you look at other teams like South and the Dragons that just disappeared into the ether. So in a 20-team comp, we don't want to be going back to the dark old days of 09, 2010, 2011. You look at the clubs like the Storm, the Roosters, that kind of are there or thereabouts every year. I think the Roosters have had that anomaly in 2016. So I think we've got the ability to do that. Franco talks about the nursery, but I think with some astute buying as well and roster management, we can look to have that constant long-term view rather than just and it keeps you there too. You're not constantly looking to pay overs like the Tigers are, like we did in the past, to try and claw yourself out of that. I think with a 20-team comp, that will be more pronounced, and I hope it doesn't have too much of a negative effect on the newcomers. I think that someone else was talking the other day saying that Wayne Bennett should be cloned and put in charge of every new team, because obviously he's ensured success for the Dolphins. It'll be very interesting to see. Unfortunately, he's going back to South, but interesting to see what happens to the Dolphins once he departs, because he's not a coach, but he's a man manager, and he's managed to put a ragtag bunch together that are performing. So that would be handy in Perth or Papua New Guinea or
every
Christchurch.
team he leaves.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so that's a short-term plan there.
So we've got Franco's junior nursery strategy. We've got Williams shore up the playmakers, and also don't hit for the fences, be consistent and try and finish 4th every season, which I think is also the correct strategy. Chris, what strategies have you got if you're thinking about it? You are the one who prompted me to do this segment when you used the word criteria on last week's show. So I have a feeling you might be a little bit more scared than these other characters, because rugby league, we know that they change them on let's go to 20 teams and then let's go back to 15 teams. They do this stuff. What would you be doing?
Correct. And as you know, you're seeing sort of things with network TV at the moment, like, you've got the chant of free sport at the moment. It's coming in with Channel 9. Obviously, the main broadcaster are coming into Fox. Channel 10's new broke, and Channel 7 occasionally throws the bait out and try and gets it. So, we talk about broadcasters, more games, more teams, but then it's not an endless supply of money, obviously, on TV at the moment. So unless a streaming service comes along, I'm a bit worried about where all that money keeps coming from. But in fact, we talk about Volanders is very happy with suburban grounds, but we saw the Leichhardt's going to get an upgrade, and the Tigers have already announced next year where they're playing 4 different grounds next season. So they're already in a bit of an open slather. So I'd like to see us shore up that roof in the Leagues Club, get a few pokies in there, and eventually try and work out how we can extend this ground. Because like we talked about last week, that dirty word criteria could rear its ugly head again and say, well, the Sharks are still sitting there and they're not really producing gate ticket receipts because they're only getting crowds of 12 to 13,000. So I'd hate to see us fall beside the wayside because, like I just said, the Tigers, they've already shored up, a touch-up. I'll say a touch-up because it's $40 million to Leichhardt, but they can always go and play at Parramatta. They can always play at Campbelltown. They can always play at the SFS, and their fans will still go. The other little one I'll throw out there, if we go to 20 teams, obviously that's a lot more games. So I've always yelled about Origin, and I'm probably more now with the younger generation finding out Origin isn't as tribalism as what we used to be. Like the players used to get into it, get in the biff, bash each other. That's all gone out the window with the new rules now. So I'd like to see a standalone Origin. I don't understand why we can't do it, because if we have 20 teams, that's already essentially playing 20 games already without even playing each other twice, without these ridiculous buys that are thrown in. Because I always forget that we've got 3 buys a season. I thought we were done for buys, but I forgot we have an uneven amount of buys. So it still comes down to, as much as we think we've shored up Shark Park, and again, with Boldo touched on recently with the naming rights, and Franco went into it about the gambling sponsor, and Zach brought it up on the weekend that the Dolphins already had one blacked out on their jersey, and they got the backer jersey sponsored by Blue Bets. There's a few teams looking for sponsors. So it's something we really have to shore up. Criteria scares me. I don't think we'll be a team move, but like Boldo said, 10 years' time, 20 years' time, they can move the goalposts again and go, we're going to go back to 16 teams. Who's going to get cut? And we could be in that chopping block. They might say, Perth's firing off. They're excellent. We need a stakeholder in the West. We need a second team in New Zealand. Obviously, Brisbane's very strong. And again, we've got too many Sydney teams like everyone complains about. But let's see what happens.
Fix the stadium. Good idea, Chris. I think the other one that I worked out from you guys is that I think don't expect the salary cap to go up would be my other big strategy. I think it might even come down. Anyway, all right, that was NRL strategy expansion chat for the Sharks. We'll move on to our last segment in terms of the episode close. We'll hit through some of the comments here. Quay and Locke said that Game of Thrones is a snooze fest. He's with Williams. It's about time someone agreed with you on this. SJD has come through a serious question. How do you bozos keep getting better? Best episode yet. Now, can I just ask you, SJD, have I managed to maintain my man of the match performance so far? Because I always don't get man of the match with you. So I'm glad you're enjoying the show, mate. We do enjoy putting this one on. Simon Mays, we missed your comment. If Teague trains well this week, you'd think he'd swap with Sifa. Atkinson will be fine in the wing. Whoever plays in the middle needs support Cam in defence. I think that's probably right. Paul gave me a hard time for saying Stone Street, not even the credits. Boo. And then I don't know who Eric Pating is. Should I know who Eric Pating is?
I need an explanation on that one.
We'll need an explanation on that one, Ronald. You
Quick
legend.
Google.
We'll Google that one through. All right. Anything else from you, lads, before we jump out of this show and say farewell and see you on Friday?
I'm Googling Eric Pating now, but...
Are you Google Eric Pating? Franco, I'll give us an answer.
Yeah. So I guess there's a couple of quick things to mention. Rumours floating around that Lat seems to have missed and CK seems to have missed is Townsend to the Roosters seems to be getting a bit of momentum.
Yeah, that's
don't know what's...
I would have confirmed it on the back of tonight, Franco, but he hasn't actually confirmed that it's pretty much a done deal. And as you saw, Gordon Tallis has blown up about the Roosters sombrero. He's going back for a reduced contract. But he hasn't gone pen to paper yet, but it's obviously in the plan. So I could have thrown in there Tupanua from the Roosters to the Bulldogs has been confirmed. But again, Gus was very tight-lipped on it. So there's no ink dry on contracts yet. So watch this space for next week's slides.
Has been confirmed that Townsend is not being offered a contract from the Cowboys. So he is officially on the move somewhere. And then just the CEO update was released today. Nothing new to report, more of the same, waiting on the developers to give us the keys so we can have at it, I guess.
We should go to the Chinese restaurant and take advantage of that 10% discount. What we should do. Now, SJD has advised us that he thinks that it is Ronald copy and pasted his password into the comments. So we look forward to hacking you later, Ronald, and buying some of that Sharks merchandise. So yes,
pay for the Chinese dinner
coming in, and here's Lat saying, "Yeah, lads," and yes, Scott Latino, the director of pornography on Boldo's Tears, missed the tears. I guess you can go back and watch that.
You better check it before it gets pulled off YouTube for copyright infringement.
I think that's probably right. All right, that was the ET Stand podcast. There's lots of people in. So if you haven't hit the subscribe button yet to be notified of our videos, as we said at the top of the show, if you hit the subscribe button, the Sharks are guaranteed a win this weekend. And yes, I'm specifically chatting to you. You know who you are. It could be anyone. So please do hit the like and subscribe button. SJD saying, lads, it was the best tears ever. Thank you, SJD. I was pretty happy with that one. We'll have the debrief after full time of the second match on Friday evening. So Franco is confirmed as being on that one. I don't know who else of us is going to be on that one because we all want to go to the damn Highfields at Carringbar, but we're going to work it out. Someone will be with Franco on the debrief. We might be a couple of beers down joining you, Franco, so that could be a worry. Mike Knight's come through saying, thanks for all your efforts, Bumblebee Tuna. Good to see you again, Mike. Yes, Matty?
I was saying good luck to Franco corralling whoever's going to hit the end stream button.
You're in good hands, guys.
It could be an absolute disaster. And other than that, we're back every Tuesday night at 8:30 p.m. We do the ET Stand podcast, talking all things Sharks. This is the second longest episode we have ever done. It just keeps getting longer and better every time. So, chin up, Sharks fans. We're still third. We will see you on Friday. Up, Cronulla up.
For over 50 years, people have come to see the Sharks play. Talent, skill, speed, intelligence, elite-level athleticism. That's not these guys. Biased, one-eyed, opinionated, more often wrong than right. They make up for their complete lack of talent with pure dribble, gibberish, and enthusiasm. This is the ET Stand Podcast.